be like, oh, by the way, you started.
Because it's literally loading. I don't even know if it started. Oh, here we go. We're live. Listen. You're on.
Mic check for the people online. So I'm going to start with the things to be read at every meeting. I'm going to start with caveat emptor, which is not necessarily something that needs to be read at every meeting, but it's still good to read, I think. Caveat emptor means may the buyer beware. Mores are men. The word men means to think. Upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try and try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads, like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunning find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Drew Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction, and having traveled over the roads years before, the Prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traitors grin, and culprits bask in the sun. They think they are on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on the pinnacle, where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time, and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour, and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks away. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth, the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials in the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. And when you study the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America and stuff that happened with Noble Drew Ali, there were Moors who got put on by him, who were his students, and they try to blatantly say, don't follow him, you don't know what he's talking about. Meanwhile, before he said anything to these people, to our people, no one was speaking to us. No one was recognizing us religiously, politically, economically, socially, nothing. Just like the so-called black people right now. No one recognizes them. But I bet you when you start putting that fez on and your energy gets corrected, people start running up to you, hey, I like your fez. Hey, you Moroccan? Smiling. Looking at you smiling, you don't even know why, because you're the same person, but you got a fez on now. You know what I'm saying? So people seeing that, people seeing the information that he had and how people loved it because he was healing people. He was telling them, this is how you eat to live. This is who you really are. People see that and they get jealous. So now the people that got put on by him, derive their authority from him are saying, nah, don't follow him now. Because they know something and they want some type of power. But then when you read the Quran, power is fleeting. You know what I'm saying? So keep that all in mind. I've notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past 2 years, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There's another story that I've heard, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but there were Moors, a group of Moors saying, oh, we'll die for the prophet, we'll die for the prophet, right? And so some masked Moors ran in the temple, you know, with I'm not sure if the guns were real or not, but acting like they were going to kill the prophet or whatever. Those same Moors ran out. The same ones saying, I'll die for him, were the ones that ran out. Once stuff started to hit the fan, right? And there's only a few Moors up there. And then the Moors that, you know, ran in with the guns or whatever, took their masks off and said, now that the traitors are gone, we can start class. And you'll often hear a lot of people say, I'll die for this, I'll die for you, blah, 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 blah. How about you live for something? How about that? You know what I mean? Peace. Peace. There's a bunch of chairs over here. I'll move my stuff. I'm selfish.
Live already?
Yes, we are. Peace.
Recruited from the Kennedy Plaza bus stop today.
Yeah.
There I am.
Peace.
Let's trend up.
How you doing? So yeah, same thing when I was in the Marines. I'll talk to people who got deployed in the combat area. They said the same thing. You know, a lot of people say, you know, when this happens, they'll do this, and then they freeze up, or they just straight run or whatever. You know, same thing. People say, I'll die for you, and then when you need them, oh, respond, and they don't respond. Oh man. To the members of the Moor Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. And if you don't know what the national creed is, get this book right now and read it. And you'll see. I'll look to the chapter so you can read it if you don't know.
What is this?
You know what chapter it is offhand?
Off top, I think it's 30. No, not 35. It might be 35. Let me check. Or 20, 25. Yeah, 25. A holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. Just so you know, like in the Marine Corps, they'll have something called meritorious boards. And the word merit is in meritorious, so based on your merit, you can get promoted. And they would ask you a series of questions, you know, drill, hand and arm signals, NCO questions, just, you know, combat questions, you know, stuff like that. And you can get everything wrong, but as long as you answer confidently, you can get promoted. I'm serious. So my point is, just because I don't know the chapter off the top of my head, I know what the chapter says. The chapters are in. You can just mess up the order, but do you know the lessons?
It's funny because I looked up the definition of act in 5th edition Black's Law Dictionary yesterday, and it was
Oh yeah.
it was pretty much fake it till you make it. It was like act it until you what did it say? Yeah, it was pretty much just do it, take the action until it comes into fruition. Was the first definition.
Because if you're doing it, you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's not really fake it till you make it, it's do it until it's done. Excuse me. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. Now, shedding some light on it, it's not just restricted to this, but as we're learning this, You'll see a lot of our people who've been calling themselves black for years. A lot of our people who've been calling themselves Indians for years. When they see this information, they're confronted with that. The years of them beating the drum and going around in circles and lying to their people. The years of them going to the church and not getting anything done and faking like everything's good. Meanwhile, the streets are terrible. So we get confronted with that. We get hit with reality really fast. You know what I mean? And to some people, they'd rather not be in reality. Because if you're not in reality, you're in this imaginary world where you used to make up whatever you want to believe in, and then you feel good. Even though life isn't not that good around you. You know what I mean? But that's the power of the mind. That's why heaven and hell is mental. It says it right in the Quran too. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. So the Moorish Science Temple of America, the buildings aren't the foundation. The minds of the people is the foundation. Because without the people, there is no Moorish Science Temple of America. Because the Moorish Science Temple of America is a corporation. Meaning it doesn't exist without the people because the people created it. Just like this wouldn't exist without the people because we made this. Without the true foundation that has been laid to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. So you see some of us saying, we're Moors. And you see some of the Indians saying, nah, you ain't Moors because the U.S. didn't recognize you and you weren't here and the U.S. says you're Indian. But they're foreigners. So how would they get to dictate who's named who on this land? And why are you accepting their names? But the people who can't think like that yet, they're like, oh, well, I'm all confused. Because they don't choose a side. Same thing with Moors saying, well, those Moors over there don't teach what the prophet taught. Then Moors are like, well, I'm confused. Who do I trust? But then if you study the Moorish Science Temple of America, the prophet created the Supreme Grand Council, which consists of 7 members, and they're the only people who have the authority to say what is injurious and not injurious to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Well, you see individuals pointing fingers. So they're trying to exercise powers that they do not have. But they know most people don't know. So they just start saying stuff, and then if you accept it, that's what you accept. So their spells work. You know what I'm saying? But if you're stupid, it ain't gonna work. So again, they try to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. So because a lot of people try to act like a buffer between you and the creator or you and the prophet, when if you want to go to the prophet, go to his literature. So if I say the prophet said this, don't believe me, look up what he said. Because if I'm wrong, you might want to correct me. Because if I'm your elected official, guess what you have to do? Correct me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these so-called grand sheikhs don't want that. They don't want to be corrected because they think they got, I don't know what they think they got, but they think they got something. Watch it. So again, when I read the chapter, when I say, what temple you from with the wet tassel? What's that mean? In a negative, bring negative energy. Clearly that's an enemy. Because the prophet said you can create your own laws and customs. Why are you tripping? You don't control this. You don't own this. Especially if there's some Moors in some different area, and they don't come to this class. What you talk about, you can tell us what to do. You ain't even in our jurisdiction. You know what I'm saying? That's like any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Nabi Ali. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah, to redeem his people from their sinful ways, peace, noble brotherly. And of course, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America, because then you will know who you are and who your forefathers were. Together we stand, divided we fall. He also said, this is a field open to all strong men and women who think that their conditions can be better. And if you talk to most of our people, aren't they complaining about how their conditions can be better? Whether, why are you taking tax out of my paycheck? Why am I paying so much to get food? Why am I paying so much for this? Why am I doing that? Why am I doing this? And then when you study what Moors are saying, we're saying, well, the IRS isn't government, and according to the Constitution, only Congress can collect taxes, so why are you paying the IRS? But then they say, well, you're crazy. I'll read this one. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. Actually, yeah. Is the other one? Is that both? That's fine, right? Yeah, there's certain lights that will stay on. I can't do the chair thing today. Can't stand. Is that too dark?
That's good.
Good?
I think that's good.
That's good. So, since we're talking about free national government again, because that's what the prophet talked about, and then when you go to Black's Law Dictionary, look up the definition of federal government and national government, and you see it's two different things. Because the national government is the government of the people. So, like, the Chinese Republic is a national government. The Mexican Republic is a national government. The United States of America is a federal government, whereas 13 European colonies in these different nations in Europe, right? So it's mixed people from Europe agreed to be under one contractual agreement. The word federal means contract. So the different German, French, Polish, Irish people agreed to be here in these colonies under that contract. That's a federal government, because it's different nations of people under one body politic. With us, it's our bloodline, the same people, are administering our own free national government. And then again, the United States is a collection of European colonies. And so descendants of Africans shall not be, let's say can't be, so shall not be citizens.
Does say that.
Because we can't be. Then when you read the Dred Scott case, they'll say it again, Africans and blacks aren't citizens of the United States. Because those Africans and blacks aren't African and black, well, they are African, but they ain't black. They're Moors, and they're the ones who allow the Europeans to be here. That's like China allowing a bunch of Europeans to be in China, and now the Chinese people are saying they're European citizens. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? That's why they created the fake 14th Amendment, which is unconstitutional, and we got the records to prove that too. I passed it around before. If you want me to pass it around, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Here it is. I'll pass around the congressional record in regards to the 13th and 14th Amendment, which in this you'll see that the prophet said there's no need for the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people. Some people confuse it and say the 13th Amendment, but that's because some Europeans put the 13th Amendment on Netflix, and now we think that we're scholars.
That's so true.
It is true. It is. And we're laughing because it's sad. All right. Also, I just went by another document that brought my mind somewhere else. So again, this is the Congressional Globe Proceedings and Debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12. And Congressional Globe, the official proceedings of Congress, published by John C. Rives, Washington, D.C., 38th Congress, First Session, Saturday, April 9th, 1864. Excuse me. New series number 90. And you'll see I highlighted all the information so you have to read everything. Although it's good to read everything, but I went straight to the point so you can see. And remember, this is 1864. The 14th Amendment, they claim, wasn't ratified until 1868, which is a fraud because this says it's unconstitutional. So I'll let you just pass it around, please.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then you'll hear black leaders here running for certain positions say, "Yeah, I teach 14th Amendment." But look at that document. You see so-called Indian chiefs here saying the same thing. They're frauds.
Mhm.
And we got more information on them too that we will reveal at a later date. Huh? Oh yeah, thank you. So this is from the prophet. Divine warning by the prophet for the nations. So remember, history and law must be taught together. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classified as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Who does that remind you of? Oh, black people, right? And what do black people say? We don't know who we are, right? They don't know their national identity. So clearly already it's truth, what he's saying. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to those names and principles that allude to slavery. Then when you ask our people, where'd you get your last name from? They'll say, well, my great-great-granddad or my great-great-grandmom got it from the slave man. So clearly that name alludes to slavery and it's not yours. And then you look up Kunta Kinte and Toby. You're not Kunta anymore, you're Toby. So now I'm Kunta. And I've been with us for so long, he just starts saying, yeah, I'm Toby. Same thing with so-called black people. With the Crusades and Inquisition, you know, we were Muslims, then they started torturing us. All right, well, we're Christians now. All right, leave us the hell alone. And now, since that historical reference is missing, now our children really think, and our parents really think that they're Christians. Because they don't know. They think they know. They don't know. All right. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. That's why they call it 3/5 of a person. We have a mind, body, and soul, but we don't have our own national name, and we don't have our own religion. 3/5. That. There's but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all nations of the world. Now pay attention to that, because some people will say, you have to join the Moorish Science Temple of America. You have to. But he said, Moorish divine national movement, and your connection to it, not the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because all men, remember, men means to think, it's not masculine. All men are independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. You are your bloodline by nature. Your mother put you out. Oh yeah, you're Moor. Guess what? You're Moor. I mean, just like Japanese people, they're born Japanese. You're not made Japanese, right? So all men are independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. You know what I'm saying? So, in other words, the laws of my house don't apply to you because you ain't in my house. But as soon as you step in my house, you consent to be in my house, so you consent to my laws. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, you should still live by love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, but those laws can't be enforced on you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
No.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah. Even though all human beings hold each other to that moral standard, but certain, like as an example, the Prophet established per capita tax, where each temple per members would have a tax according to that number. If you're not part of that temple, then you don't have to pay tax. You're not part of the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just out on the street, you're not part of the temple, you don't have to pay taxes. Once you become a member, then you have to. You know what I'm saying? Because you agreed by being a member, so you're going to follow the rules by being a member.
Not paying taxes doesn't make you subject to
who?
To the government. Because you're paying
Well, if it's your government, then yes, because you're funding your government. So remember, government needs to govern the mind. So the Europeans are a government. They're not ours. We're trying to reestablish ours. So we're paying taxes to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And it's by consent.
Get at, so where you pay the taxes to?
Yeah. And then it's a constitutional principle: no taxation without representation. Show me any more within the United States Corporation Company. Show me any Asiatic saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Moor, by the way." No, they say I'm black. They say I'm a pastor. They say I'm a Christian. You know what I'm saying? So you often see a lot of these quote unquote woke people trying to say taxation is death. No, it's not. If you agree, then how's it death? If you're agreeing to. You get what I'm saying? So again, it's a connection through the Moorish Divine and National Movement, not necessarily through a temple, because the temple is the minds of the people. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. So remember, we had to sit down with the candidate to be mayor here. He was like, you shouldn't have to, you should just be able to go the day of the election and vote, not register to vote first, which is getting permission. You know what I'm saying? And then what did we do when we elected or selected the Grand Sheik here? It was a free national ballot. Everyone who was there said, "Oh yeah, I'm voting." And then it's the state, because a state is a group of people bound together by common law. So this is our state, not the state of Rhode Island. Because when you do history on the state of Rhode Island, literally on Wikipedia, it'll say it's a European colony. Are you European? No. So how are you a citizen of that? But then there's certain Moors who think that Moors can vote in their system. How, if you're not a citizen? And you can't be, based on the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment being unconstitutional. How can you vote in someone else's system if you're not a member of it? A citizen means member.
That's probably why they might go back.
Because if you did vote, chances are it was in that straw name, which you know is not you. Meaning it's European property, so since it's their property, they can say, "Nah, my property don't get to vote this year." Which is exactly what the prophet is saying. You know what I'm saying?
This is funny in a sense.
And then peep this. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials of your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they'll be glad to render you a favorable reply. They're glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Now, haven't we seen certain leaders coming in and out of Superior Court, right? Yeah. And there's a library right up in there, a law library. And those other certain individuals are speaking against the Moors, reading Black's Law Dictionary.
We've seen those individuals in the library.
He had the Constitution right on him, and he was talking about the difference between driving and traveling. Go to those who know law. That's why I take people to the law library, which all these politicians know, all these so-called activists know, all these so-called Indian chiefs know, who claim to be Sagamores or all of them know. They're sellouts. And they try to say, well, Moors are dirty. They sell out. They got treaties with the Europeans. Then when you read the treaties with the Europeans, they were paying us, meaning we're the creditor. So who we selling out if they had to pay us to be here? And then look at any Indian treaty, any of them, and it all says we agree to be under the government of the United States. But then they say it's the Pale Man and they're foreign. But you're agreeing? I'm confused. I'm confused. Let me tuck my temple with all the fingers. Go Super Saiyan, teleport somewhere, right? So go to them. Money doesn't make the man. And you'll see a lot of these sellouts are selling us out for so-called money. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. Without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government, as opposed to a federal one, national free government, and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Now, again, when you look up any coins, any silver, or any of the fiat of Mexico, it says the United States of Mexico. So, States of America. Also known as the Barbary States. Barbary means Moorish. And then when you look up the treaty of peace and friendship, 1786, it says we accept Mexican dollars. Then, when you look up any of the South American coat of arms, it has this on it. Cuba, Haiti, Colombia, Brazil, Guatemala. And they call it a Phrygian cap. And most of the time, the word liberty is associated with it. Then you look at Phrygia. Phrygia is a territory in present-day Turkey, which is part of the Moorish Empire. I'll let that sit. And then, hold on, wait, let me just bring this up too. Then the Prime Minister of Turkey revealed that Muslims came to America before Columbus. Oh, wait, I just remember something else. The University of Rhode Island, Professor Ivan Urisco, revealed that Muslim seafarers came here before Columbus at least 5 centuries. University of Rhode Island. Oh, but we're Indians and shit. And then when the prophet says gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens, you look up Federal Reserve Act of 1913, where they took all the gold. Now they're controlling the market with the paper that they can print at will, because you can't print gold. You can print the paper, they control the market. Then they created a fake credit system where credit ain't real. Credit means your reputation. So they're issuing us credit, controlling what we can and can't get based on a score when it's not real. But since we believe in it, it becomes real, because the universe is mental. Yeah, it is. Well, it is color because of its appearance that is real, but as soon as you accept it, it becomes reality, because your mind accepted it as real.
That's where you're trapped at.
Yeah, that's why the prophet said mental slavery, when mental slavery. So all of this means a lot.
Yes, it does.
This is why you have to know history. Well, it sounds dope, but you're missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional, our free national constitution of the United States of America. And when you read this right here, Congress, again, admitting everything to avoid karmic debt, but then all these so-called Indians and black leaders are lying to your face. That's why our nation is suffering and not the Europeans, because they know and they're lying to us. This is the 100th Congress, second session, in the Senate of the United States, concurrent resolution to acknowledge the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy. Then we look up IROQ, right? Vowels are interchangeable. IRAQ, Iraq. Iroquois, Iraq. Iroquois, Iraq. Iroquois law of peace. Islam means peace. To acknowledge the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy of Nations to the development of the United States Constitution, and to reaffirm the continuing government-to-government relations between us and the United States, which they brand us as Indians, which mean goddamn Indians, excuse my language. So again, government-to-government relationships between Indians, excuse my language. So again, government-to-government relationships between Indian tribes and the United States establishing in the Constitution. Whereas the original framers of the Constitution, including most notably George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, are known to have greatly admired the concepts of the nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. I'm going to pass this around, even though I know most people know this. And also here is Franklin Delano Roosevelt's proclamation ending all the gold. So I'm not one of these black and Indian leading crap to mess with your spirit so that I can drain you. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standards, because day by day, they've been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names. And then he refers to my people as Moors. That's like a Japanese person saying, my people are Japanese, but I'm not. You're an idiot.
That's funny.
Stupid. Let's just call it what it is. Stupid. That's a typo. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, that's because status is the first issue at law. It is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Now, who does that sound like? Black people, right? Black people know who they are, right? So they fail to get their free national name, right? And then what happened? We work there in prison industrial complex. We get killed on the streets. We get fired for nothing. And we can't do anything about it. Well, we're not black, but when I say we, those black people are Moors. So they're still Moors, but they don't know it. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles. Because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name. Because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. So when you see